So I should be live. That means you should hear me. Go ahead, put a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me and if you can see my screen because you know what it's like with tech. You know what it's like with tech. So go ahead, throw those thumbs up or some type of emoji or just say hi. I don't actually really know if there's anybody listening. And then I guess I wouldn't get anything in the comments. So maybe what I shall do is just go ahead and go with it. And then it may be, oh, wait, there's somebody. Hello, 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 hello. I appreciate you being here. So today we are going to be talking about estates because, yeah, you already know that these estates are going to be on the test. And I want you all to do more than just go, oh, joint tenancy, right, or survivorship. I mean, yes, that is true. Those two things are connected. However, it's about understanding more so you can get through those application type questions, right? And I'm going to try to remember there's a little bit of a lag. Hey, this tiny ocean. There's a little bit of a lag between me seeing your comments and you all getting, you all telling me. So I'm going to pause a little bit so you have opportunities to ask questions. You know, I love the questions and I want you to walk away from today really feeling a lot better about estates. So let's just start with estates in general. And estate, it actually means an interest in real estate that gives you possession. An interest in real estate that gives you possession, which basically means you can live there. That is an estate. And one of the things I know that they love to ask on a test is what's an estate versus an easement? Now remember, an easement gives you the right to use or to cross. So you probably learned about appurtenant easements. You've probably learned about easements in gross, but usually it's somebody crossing some land. Or if we're talking about utility easements, sometimes you have those ugly green boxes, those utility boxes, they're using the land, right? Those are easements. You have the right to use or cross, but you can't live there. In an estate, you get to live there. So look, as an easy answer. Hi, Eric. You said help. Help you with what? Let me know what you need help with. But what was I saying? Oh gosh, I don't know. I saw that you needed help, Eric, and I just forgot what I was saying. So in this easement, you get to live there. I guess I've pretty much killed that point right now. Oh, I know what I was going to say. On a test question, if you forget anything about, the different estate options that they give you, just remember if you see the word estate, the person can live there. If you see the word estate, the person can live there. And I know you all can see my screen. So all of these different estate words that are in these boxes, any of them, oh, you mistyped. I got you. Any of them means, oh, so the question could say, hey, Eric has got a Port-à-Treville life estate. Can he live there? Yeah. How do we know? Because it's an estate. The basis of the word estate means you can live there. And it turns out we have two options. We got freehold and you've got non-freehold. Freehold and non-freehold. Does anybody know what freehold means versus non-freehold? Does anybody know freehold versus non-freehold? And Erica, you are so welcome. I mean, this is why I do it, to help people, because I know sometimes you just don't get a chance to ask your teacher, or maybe you're in a asynchronous, or you're kind of learning at your own pace and you don't have access to a teacher. So this gives you some opportunities to ask questions. Now, again, I know that there is a little bit of own versus lease. Oh, that's great. This tiny ocean, I was going to say there's a little bit of a difference in the timing, but yeah, freehold means ownership. You own it. And the other word for non-freehold is leasehold. You're leasing. You're renting. So you can live in a property, but just because you're living on it doesn't mean you own it. If you're renting, you have the legal right to live there because you have a non-freehold or a leasehold estate. If you have a freehold estate, it means you own it. Good. Yay, look at y'all getting it right. And remember, if I say something and it's confusing because it could just be me or you don't understand it, that's where you drop your questions in the chat. So 2 types of estates: ownership or you're renting. Freehold is ownership. Non-freehold means you're renting. Let's start with the ownership estates. And I'm going to do those in purple just so we can kind of get some type of, say that's purple, some kind of unity here. So just in general, what I want you all to think of is the word fee equals inheritance. If I can spell right. Fee equals inheritance. I don't have to tell you anything beyond that to know if you had a question that said, Eric, because I was just picking on him, Eric has a fee simple conditional estate. Can his children inherit it? The answer is yes, because you got the word fee there. If you can think of the word fee meaning inheritable, it tells you, hey, you know what? Eric owns it because it's freehold, and he can let his children inherit it or whoever he wants inherit it because of the fee. So any type of fee simple estate is one that is owned and it can be inherited. Now, we already know when it comes to real estate, that's just the base. That's not complicated enough. It'd be really awesome if they just stop there and they're like, oh, we're done. But no, we've got so many more options. So yes, you can own the land and it could be inherited. You can go ahead and will it to somebody. But now what we're going to do is talk about, well, how long can you own it? And truth be told, guys, this whole chart, I'm assuming you all have seen this chart before. This whole chart is really about time or length of ownership. This whole chart could really be called the time or length of ownership. Well, why am I saying that? Because we're going to start right here. Number 1, fee simple absolute. Anytime you see a fee simple absolute, it means the ownership is forever. What do I mean by your ownership is forever? I mean, you got this piece of land, it's yours, and you're going to own it until you decide to not own it anymore, until you do something where you lose it. There's no rules in the ownership. So think of your deed, however you got it, as being the outline and the rules of your ownership. Nobody put any restrictions or qualifications on your ownership. They just said, hey, it's yours. It's yours, and if you want to sell it, knock yourself out. If you want to keep it and will it to your kids, that's cool too. Because if you own it, then you can will it to somebody, and then they're going to own it unless they decide to will it to somebody or sell it. That's what I mean by absolute. Your ownership is forever. And everything you see on this chart is about going from you own forever all the way over to you never owned it. Think about it, and I'm going to use this blue. You own it forever. This next step here is maybe you own it forever. Your life estates were never own it forever. Oops. Making my color back. Give me my color back. There we go. Forever. All the way here to You never owned it. Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. How we're going from you owned it forever to you never owned it. A fee simple absolute, you owned it forever. A fee simple defeasible, you maybe own it forever. A life estate, you never had the opportunity to own it forever. And we know by definition, a non-freehold estate means you never owned it. So give me some type of signal like, yes, that makes sense. You know how my thing is with having a favorite emoji. Awesome. Sweet. I love it. So that's what this chart means. Right? Now I'm going to erase that just because I don't want it to get too cluttered. But you get now, and I'm just going to erase this part. Right? We are going from you own it forever all the way over to you never owned it. And that's what I said. I said in number 1, a fee simple absolute, you owned it forever. Now your defeasible states, think of this word defeasible as defeated, which means it could end. Oh, where can you get a copy of this chart? Trying to think the easiest way to get this to you. Just when this is over, you know what? You can email me. But you know what? When this is over and this is a recording, put a I think emailing me. I think that's probably easiest. I didn't even think about that. Email me at candaceellis.com. Or drop it in the chat and ask me, just send me your email. Hey, Candace, can you send it to me? But I will definitely send you this chart. I just didn't think about an easy way to get it to you. So you can email me. All right? So let's go back to this defeasible thing. I want you to think of defeated as ended. So, oh yeah, you can take a chart. And I think if you want to take a picture at the end of it, I can erase it all and it'll just be the plain chart. So in a fee simple absolute, you own it forever. There's no rules. In a fee simple defeasible, what the person giving you is saying is, here, this is your property as long as you follow some rules. If you follow the rules, it's yours forever. But if you don't follow the rules, you can lose ownership. Now, I'm always talking about my mom. I love her. You all know that. But my mother is also very religious. Now, what if my mother said, I shouldn't say but, maybe an and. What if my mother said, hey, Gabs, you can have this land. You can have this land as long as there's no alcohol that's ever partaken of it. So guess what, Gabby? Or I say Gabby, I'm assuming it's Gab, but Gabs. You know what, Gabs? It's now your property. It was my mother's property, now it's your property. If it was fee simple absolute, do what you want. If it's a fee simple defeasible, she said, Gabs, your ownership could possibly be ended. If you drink alcohol, you will lose ownership. If you don't drink alcohol, you won't lose ownership, which is why I said the maybe. That's why we had maybe, because we had ownership forever, and then we said own forever, maybe. Right? That was our first step. That's our second step. This is our maybe ownership. It's Gabby. Great. There you go. I am sounding better today. Thank you. Right? So, in a defeasible estate, your ownership could be defeated. It could be ended. Now, once again, we've got to make it complicated. You got this determinable and you've got this conditional. The easy answer is automatic versus court. One easy difference between these two is if my mother gave Gabby a fee simple determinable, she gave her some rule. And the rule was, don't have alcohol on it. If it's a fee simple determinable and she has alcohol, Gabby's interest automatically ends. If it was a fee simple conditional, my mother would have to take her to court. The conditional C, the court C, that is one difference between the determinable and the conditional. If Gabby breaks the rule in a fee simple determinable, she would lose ownership automatically. It's just magically in the world of legalese. Oh, her ownership ended because she drank that alcohol. Or if it is a fee simple conditional, if she drinks the alcohol, my mother has the right to take her to court. My mom would tell the judge, hey, judge, I told her she couldn't have alcohol, and she did it, and now you should give it back to me. And the judge would be like, whoop, yay. So those are one way it's different. You could have a test that asks you a little bit more detailed. And what I want you to think about is this idea that, well, I don't even want to go into too much detail. That should pretty much get that for you. It's about length of time. Like they could have the condition, like the determinable. I'll tell it to you. Determinable is also about duration. So if you see the words as long as, if how long you could own the property is based off some type of time, then it's durational. But if you get conditional, it's going to be based off of like following some type of rule. That is not something you're usually going to be tested on, but you know me, I like to be thorough. So we've got this concept of, all right, so let's just review. You're going to be able to live there because it's an estate. If it's freehold, you own it. If it's fee simple, fee means you own it and it can be inherited. And of our fee simple estates, you could possibly own it. You could own it forever, which is our fee simple absolute, our number one. Or you could possibly own it forever, our fee simple defeasibles, which are number two. And if you could possibly own it forever, we have two options. You're either going to own it and you automatically lose ownership, or you're going to own it and somebody has to take you to court for them to get ownership back. So I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to have a sip of water because y'all know I've been a little hoarse. But you tell me, and I want to give you enough time. Do we understand the purple section where we had two steps? We had the own it forever, and then we had the maybe own it forever. And we're going from left to right. So I'm going to grab some water. You tell me that you're still with me in the chat. I really am going to have to figure out this lag thing. You said less than I think I did before, but yes. Okay. So Gabby, I just want to make sure, is there anything I need to make more clear? Anything I need to make more clear for you? Oh, good. You're still here. I know. Yay. I'm glad. You're soaking it in. Good. Soaking it in. So I think, and I'm just going to go away from the screen for a second. One of the things I usually do is, if we're talking about time, we got our steps. Own forever. Maybe own forever. And I'm just going to run out of space here. Never own forever. And then you have never owned. This timeline where we're going from here to here to here, that is all this chart is doing. we've got right here, own it forever. Then you've got maybe own it forever. So hopefully that makes sense. And I have my question there. You said, is determinable the same as defensible? I think it is. I don't know. That's not a term. I've heard that term a couple of times. But Jennifer, if you email me, I will find out for certain. And in fact, Jennifer, when this is over, if you will ask that in the chat below, somebody rewatching this will want to know the answer, and I'll put it there. But I think it is, but I want to triple check with an attorney I know, because I don't want to lead you down the wrong road. Because, guys, there's a lot. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years. There is a lot of vocab, and sometimes I get it messed up. So I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. Put it in the chat, not now, but like when after this is over, so it's permanent. And then I will answer it for you. Or you can email me. All right, so let's move on. If we've got you own it forever, and you could possibly own it forever, our next step has another color. I'm going to call it green. This was you never, oh, let me use a different green. Maybe this one. This was you never had the opportunity to own it forever. You never had the opportunity to own it forever. Gabs, you said you're taking your test tomorrow. What do I feel like most people miss often on the exam? Before I finish, ask me that tonight and I will go over it. I don't want to go too far off track. All right. So, life estates. You never were going to own it forever. So let me give you an example. I have a property and I'm giving it to Diana. Diana, if I gave you a fee simple absolute, you could own it forever. Diana, if I gave you a fee simple defeasible, you could possibly own it forever. But Diana, if I give you a life estate, you were never going to own it forever because your ownership is determined by somebody's life. There was always a countdown to your ownership. Never, ever, ever was I ever planning for you to have this property forever. That was not part of the plan. If I give Diana a life estate, it's called life estate because it's based off of somebody's life. So to draw that out, what I mean is in a life estate, and let's just talk about a regular life estate. This is me. I'm going to give ownership to Diana. But the question is, if I could make it, there we go. How long? The answer to that question is for her life. So Diana, who can own it, she now owns it. She's going to own it until she dies. And when she dies, ownership comes back to me. That is a life estate. And since there is no possible way for Diana to live forever, Diana never had the opportunity to own it forever. In a life estate, in a regular old life estate, her ownership is based on the new owner's life. So it's basically saying, I have a fee simple absolute. Diana, you will now have a life estate as long as you are alive. But when you die, Diana, it's going to come back to me. Oh, good. I love that. Ah, Diana, that means it's making sense. Yay. I give a life estate to Diana. Diana now owns it. How long does she own it for? Until she dies. And when she dies, it goes back to me. We call Diana the life tenant. Even though she owns it, we call her the life tenant. Right? So we like that. We love that. People are then going to ask me, why would I do this? Well, maybe I knew Diana from a child and she lost her job. Sorry, Diana. And she's on hard time, but I have an extra house that I usually rent out. And she's my bestie. But it's family property. That would be a reason for me to say, hey, Diana, you're my bestie. I always want to look out for you. But at the same time, I don't want my family to lose out permanently. So, Diana, you own this house as long as you're alive. But when you die, it goes back to me and my family. Now, there's all sorts of reasons why people might do this. But that's an easy one. I'll give you one other time where somebody might do this. Let's say I have a house. You know what? That might be a little complicated and it's a little bit long. If you want me to give you a second example, I'll do another video on it, but I think that's the easiest way to think of it. A life estate, a regular life estate, is where ownership is based off the life tenant's life. When the life tenant dies, it goes back to the original owner. Now that's one type of life estate, but it turns out there's another type of life estate. And you might have seen it. It's called a life estate per Autry V. A life estate per Autry V. Christina, at the end of this, if you want to ask me, then I will answer that question, but not right now. Remember this. V rhymes with fee. And fee means it's inheritable. And I'm going to say that because somebody asked in the chat earlier, what's the type of life estate that could be inherited? It's this per Autry V. And per Autry V means for the life of another. Well, let's draw that out. So you have me. I'm going to give this property to Diana. She's the life tenant. But she owns it for Christina's life. So in a per Autry V life estate, I'm giving ownership to Diana, but we want to know for how long. That's a L. It's about Christina's life. She's the clock. She's the clock. So if I give this property to Diana, Diana, you own it. For how long? Until until Christina dies. So let's say I didn't just give it to you, Diana. You paid me. Diana, you paid me $500,000. And I said for $500,000, Diana, you can own it as long as Christina's alive. Well, if Christina lives another 70 years, great. Diana, for $500,000, you got ownership for 70 years. But sorry to do this to you, Christina. If 2 days later, Christina gets hit by a bus, Diana, you paid $500,000 for 2 days of ownership. What? Yeah. Ownership is based off of somebody besides the life tenant's life for the life of another. Right? So you said it's still crazy to you. Can you sell a life estate? Who would buy it? I don't know why you would do this, but you can, I mean, I actually can come up with a couple of scenarios, but these things aren't common, guys. Remember, once you pass this test, what we want you to know is if you see these words on a deed, you need to call an attorney immediately because it just got complicated. Now, you asked, why would somebody do this? And sometimes I give this example of Oprah. Oprah. Is that how you spell Oprah? You know what? Oh. What if Oprah gave Gail ownership of a house? But it wasn't about Gail. It was for how long? As long as Oprah's dogs were alive. Right? Gail, how long are you going to own this? You're going to own it as long as Oprah's dogs are alive. So as long as Oprah's dogs are alive, then Gail owns the property. But what happens when Oprah's dogs die? Well, when Oprah's dogs die, ownership goes back to Oprah. That's a terrible. I don't even know what that is, y'all. Like, that was going to be an arrow, but that was awful. So let me see. What if the owner dies before the life tenant? Grishma, that's an amazing question. Wait, which owner? What if, so is it whether I die or Oprah dies? Let me know which one. Well, you know what? Why don't I talk about it? And I'm going to use a different color. Let's use orange. Let's say in this example, she owns it for Christina's life, but Diana dies. Then it's going to go to Diana's heirs. And it's going to go to the heirs until when? Until Christina's life. And then it's going to go back to me. All right? Does that make sense? Let's say in this example, Gail dies, but the dogs are still alive. It's going to go to Gail's husband or whoever her heirs are until when? The dog dies. You said it sounds like rich people problems. Yeah, that's about right. But you get the point. All of this is about how long do you own it? Fee simple, absolute. You owned it forever. Fee simple, defeasible. You could possibly own it forever. And if it's a life estate, the new owner was never going to own it forever because nobody lives forever. Now I see that what happens if Oprah dies? Well, y'all remember there was that person who discovered that they were sisters. Oprah's like half sister. It would go to Oprah's heirs. But why? Because Oprah would have started with a fee simple absolute. That's what she started with, but she gave a life estate. Pour attribut. And when it goes back to Oprah, it goes back to her, but if she's dead, it goes to her heirs. So Diana, you are absolutely correct. This is your life estate pour attribut for the life of another. This is just a regular life estate where the ownership is based off of the life tenant. So give me a thumbs up if you understand that so far. Give me a thumbs up if the life estate versus a pour attribut life estate makes sense. And I'll tell you something. This is how I tell my students, guys. In a life estate, the life tenant is equal to the measuring life. It's the same. The measuring life in a life estate is Diana. The measuring life in a Poratre V estate is Christina. The measuring life with Oprah is the dog. So, in a life estate, the life tenant is equal to the measuring life. It's the same. But in a Poratre V, the life tenant is not equal to the measuring life. Why? Would you agree that this is a different language? I think it's Latin or French or whatever. Poratre V is a different language, so your life tenant and your measuring life are different. I don't know if that's going to help you, but it's one way to remember. Right? So, Samantha, are you saying you don't understand the Poratre V, or were you answering my question? So just let me know. So in a Poratre V life estate, the measuring life and the life tenant are not the same. Good, Gabs. I'm glad that helps. I'm glad. Guys, this is like a Lifetime movie waiting to happen, is it not? Like, this is ridiculous. Why do we need to know this? I don't know, but it's on your test, so I'm going to teach it to you. That's what we got. Now, all of this was so very much fun. But I'm going to add one more level of complicatedness, because why? I do believe the real estate gods hate us. Let's add another bit of complicatedness in red. That's pink. You know how, in this instance, for here, it went back to me over here, right? It went back to me. Or in this case, it went back to Oprah. All right? It all happened. But what if? And I just used pink for that. Let's use, I'll just use a wavy line. There's an option where instead of going back to me, it could go back to a new person. It could go back to Samantha. Samantha would be the remainder man. So let's talk about a regular life estate, and I'm going to draw it out. In a regular life estate, and let's pick another color so you can follow. It started with me with a fee simple absolute. I gave to Diana a life estate that she owns until she dies. If there's a remainder man, it would go to that person. If there's no remainder man, it would go back to me. Let's try it again. In a life estate Poratre V, for the life of another, I started with fee simple absolute. I gave a life estate to Diana as long as Christina's alive. But what could happen, is that when Christina dies, it doesn't go back to me, it goes to Samantha. Samantha is the remainder man. That's a remainder man. So, Gabby, you're exactly right. If it comes back to me, it's reverting, reversionary. If it comes back to me, it's reversionary rights. If it's going to Samantha, it's got remainder rights. Does that make sense? I'll repeat it. If it comes back to me, it's reversionary. In this instance, if when the dog dies, it goes to Stedman, then he has a remainder interest. Good. So when would it go to their heirs? Great question, Aaliyah. Well, in this case, if I'm running out of colors, guys, but I think it helps. So let's say an Oprah gives it to Gail as long as the dog is alive. If Gail dies, it's going to go to Gail's heirs. So it's inheritable by Gail's heirs only as long as the dog is alive. Gabs, you said in Poratry V, can the life tenant be the remainder man? I mean, Gabs, that's an interesting question, but if you're just going to make the life tenant the remainder man, why didn't you just give it to them? Hey, you can own it until somebody else dies, and then it becomes yours anyway. Like, I think it just overcomplicates it. Right. So, it is a lot. So I'm going to take it all the way back here. What? We got step 1. You owned it forever. You got step 2. You could possibly own it forever. And step 3 was you never owned it forever. And in ordinary, the life tenant is the same as the measuring life. And a Poratry V, they're different. That makes sense? Now, I'm going to very quickly talk about these. Let's go to this. Stop that. These right here, they're called legal life estates. But this is when you get a life estate from a law. That's all that means. Sometimes laws have it so that somebody can get a life estate, and when that happens, those are legal life estates. They come from a law. And dower is the wife's interest in the property of her husband, and courtesy is the husband's interest in his wife's property. They're just vocab words, nothing that's too complicated. Just know legal life estates come from laws. So I want to go back to all this, and let's do our last section. Our estate for years, our estate from period to period, all of those. Remember, these are about leasing. All right? So let's come all the way over here. Our first type of non-freehold estate. You know, that's just awful. I can do better than that. We have our non-freehold freehold estates. Number 1 is, see this? Estate for years. Otherwise known as an estate for term. Good. I'm glad it's helpful, Naya. I'm glad. What does this mean? Well, I want you to focus on this word term. And when I think of the word term, I think of like a mayor. You know how if you're voted in as a mayor, it's from a start date to an end date. And at the end, you got to get out. That is an estate for years. It's one set period of time. No automatic renewal. Is there ever a time when a mayor of a city can ever just, oh, I'm staying, I'm not leaving? No. It's for one term. You get voted into one term. That is an estate for years. Also think of vacation rentals. When you have a vacation rental, isn't it just for 2 weeks? And when your 2 weeks is over, it's not like you can be like, hey, I really love this house. It's a great beach. I think I'm going to stay. No. At the end of your 2 weeks, you got to go. It was for one term. Somebody else is going to come in. That is an estate for years, estate for term. I know that years makes you want to think, oh, it's about how long, but it's not. It's about what happens at the end. Think about that. With your non-freehold estates, what happens at the end? And at the end, get out. That's your estate for term or estate for years. We'll go this way, I suppose. Number 2 is an estate from period to period, or a periodic estate. And what this means is it auto renews. Now look, this is my YouTube, so if you're squeamish, sorry for you. I always think about a woman's menstrual cycle or a woman's period. Ladies, and if guys, you didn't know this, we can consider this a biology lesson. But ladies, do you remember when you were like 12, 13, 14, whenever you got your period? And you were so excited you're like, I'm a woman now. Oh, my goodness. And then the next month, it came back. What? And it comes back the month after that. And it comes back the month after that. And it comes back the month after that. Your body just automatically renews itself. You have your period. And then it renews itself. And then you have another period. And then it renews yourself and have another period. So unless you get old and you don't have it anymore, you have a hysterectomy, or you get pregnant, unless you do something to stop it, your period just keeps renewing itself. What? That is a periodic tendency. So if you've ever rented an apartment, you rent it from 1/1 until 12/31, let's say in 2020. And then it renews. And there's a new one from 1/1 to 12/31 for 2021. And then it renews. And then you have one from 12/1 to 12/31 for 2022. That makes sense? That is your period to period. You have this set amount of time. And at the end, unless either the landlord or the tenant cancels, it just automatically renews into a new period. And when that period is up, it's just going to automatically renew into another period until finally, at the end of 2022, either the landlord or the tenant, that says tenant, can end. Good. It tells you exactly what it is there. It's a estate from period to period. All right. Number 3 is an estate at will. Think of your bestie or a family member. There is no set dates. You ever have, no, guys, I'm sure my family's going to watch this and I'm in trouble, but for years, like 8 years, I lived with my brother because obviously I like to be tortured. He just said, hey, I'm coming down. And he moved in one day. And eventually he was like, hey, I'm leaving. And he left one day. I didn't know how long he was going to stay. It ended up being 8 years. I thought it was going to be like 3 months. There was no set dates. I could have kicked him out or he could have left when he wanted. That is an estate at will. Think about it. And the estate for term, there was an end. There's a start and an end. One term, you know the dates. It never automatically extends. In an estate from period to period, you have a start date and an end date. You have a start date and an end date. You have a start date and an end date. Those are periods of time. But my brother did not give me any dates. He just moved in and wouldn't leave. Leaving, a drop of milk at the bottom. Opening my windows, heating all the outside in the winter and cooling off the outside in the summer. Spilling and using all my laundry detergent. It's a good thing he's very helpful and I love him very much. Shh, don't tell him that. We like to let him think that he is, the bane of my existence, but my brother's actually pretty great. He's also single. I'm not afraid to say that I want nieces and nephew. Anybody need somebody in North Carolina? My brother is awesome. He's like 40. Let me know. I'll get you up, right? I'm going to get in so much trouble if he ever hears this. So, he's put up with me for 40 years. He's got to be pretty awesome. So in a estate at will, there are no set dates. Now, having said that, and I'm going to do this, guys. We are going to unlock my Zoom. Do you see, and I know it's messy, but you had an estate for years, an estate for term, an estate at will. And all 3, you had the legal right to be there. You had the legal right to be there, but all of them can end. What happens if that legal right ends, but the person stays? What do we call that? When somebody either had an estate for term, an estate from period to period, or an estate at will, it was supposed to end. At first, they had the legal right to be there, and then it ended, but the person stayed. We know the only legal way to get somebody out of a place is to get them removed by a judge. So even though their lease is over and they should have left, they have the right to stay until a judge tells them to get out. And that's exactly right. This is number 4. An estate at, I can spell, sufferance. The landlord suffers until the court kicks them out. A holdover tenant. That's what that is. So it really means you got your estate for term, your estate from period to period, your estate at will, and number 4 is all the way over here, the estate at sufferance. Where does that look like on our chart? We got an estate for years, an estate from period to period, an estate at will. And guys, do you see this line? It's there for a reason. The only way to get estate at sufferance is through here. You were here, you were in one of these, and then when you didn't get out, it went down here. That's a lot. That is a lot. So I'm going to do something here. I'm going to find a new space. All the way up here. Going to take me to 100%. We're going to lock this at lock here. And what I'm going to do is bring in a photo. Boom. Remember this? Remember this. So let's do a check mark type of system. Let's use this blue. Does everybody understand estate means live there? Freehold means ownership. Non-freehold means renting. Absolute is forever. Defeasible is maybe forever. Determinable is automatic. And it ends it ends automatically if you break the rule, right? If you go over some amount of time. And conditional, you got to go to court. In a regular old ordinary life estate, the life tenant is equal to the measuring life. And in a Poratri V, the life tenant is not the measuring life. Our legal life estates come from laws. Estate for years has an end. Well, I guess I got to start. Has a start and an end. No auto renew. Period to period is we're going to say it has a period, then it renews. I'm trying to make of a pretty way to do it. You got a period, then you go to the next period, and then you go to the next period automatically. Estate at will, it's all loosey goosey. No set dates. An estate at suffer, the person won't leave. That was a lot. And make it so you can see all this here. That's a lot. Hit me up with those questions while I grab some water. Hit me up with those questions. Or if there are no questions, just say, it was a lot, Candace, but I think I got it. What we have learned is that my handwriting is the poo. And my mother, who used to teach first and second grade, and my first, second, third grade kindergarten teachers are all crying because my handwriting is so awful. I know. It's just terrible. All right, well, if it's clear, a couple people I said ask me questions at the end. Oh, there we go. Gabs, you said top takeaways from someone taking their test tomorrow. The first is never change your answers. Never change your answers unless you're like, oh my God, I missed a word. I'm 100% sure I missed that not, or I missed that always, or what was I thinking? I was backwards. I know that I know that I know. Because generally, most people change to the wrong answers. They like talk themselves out of the right answer. The other thing I would tell you is don't be nervous. I mean, I know it's one thing for me to say it, but don't be nervous because you're not going to give up. I want you to pass tomorrow, but if you don't, are you going to give up? No. So stop making it all or nothing and just know you're on a path. And your path might be one test. It might be 17 tests. I don't know. Not you personally. I don't want you to take 17, but you know what I'm saying. If you're not going to give up, stop putting all this pressure on yourself to be perfect this one time. And then what I would tell you to do is tonight, don't try to learn a whole bunch of new stuff. Just review like things like this so that tomorrow you have lots of stuff and definitions fresh in your head. That's what I would say. All right, Christina, you said, your question is, if a seller shows a house with a ceiling fan, when the buyer is now getting the house and the seller took the ceiling fan, is the seller allowed to do that? Well, Christina, I'm going to defer to your state's purchase contract, but generally, no. Generally, if that ceiling fan was attached, it's a fixture. And when people buy houses, fixtures are part of the real property, so you bought the real property, and that buyer should be getting the ceiling fan. Having said that, different contracts have places for you to put exemptions and things like that in it. But generally, yeah, the fixtures, like the kitchen sink and the toilet, come with the house. That buyer should have expected the ceiling fan. Gabs, you said you're coming back for your song? Good. I want you to come back for your song. All right, guys. Anything else? You got me. I'm here. I don't mind answering one or two more questions. I'm really excited about next week and having like a question free-for-all where you all just ask me questions. But I might have to do another random YouTube live just to see if I can fix that delay. Because if I'm going to answer questions for you all, I need there to be less of a delay. Or maybe what I'll do is, I'll make the appointment. It'll probably be next Thursday. I need to check. But once I know what day it is, I'll have an email place for you to email me or a Google Drive your questions. And then I can go through them one by one. So I think that's it. I want to say you all, you did great. Thank you for coming. Is this helpful? I mean, I like doing this. I already like doing it for you all on Tuesdays and Wednesdays for Prep Agent. But I love being able to take my time and explain stuff, even though I know it's a little chaotic. Does this help, and should I keep doing these YouTube lives? That's the question for the ages. One more thing. Just in case I forget. Let's do this. I'm going to add this photo, all clean, one more time. So if anybody wants a picture, they can have it all clean and nice. So I'm going to go grab some dinner. And by grab some dinner, I mean make some dinner. And yes, it helps. Good. I will be back, to do my thing another day. You can always rewatch this. And if you want to be notified about my lives, if I get better at this, I might just randomly start coming on when somebody asks a good question and I answer it. So make sure you sign up for the notifications because y'all know me well enough to know I don't have any rhyme or reason. I might just pop on and then you want to be notified. Even that way, if you can't be there, you know to go back and look for the next one. So subscribe. All right, guys, I will see you next Monday. It'll be me and Maria. Oh my gosh, think about that. You get a lot of me during the week. Mondays are me and Maria. Tuesdays, I do this for Prep Agent. And Wednesdays, I do this for Prep Agent. And then on Thursdays, it's just me. So you get a lot of me. Hope you don't get sick of me. Guys, I got to go. Thank you so much. Mwah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will see you next time. Bye.